Hey, hey, happy Friday. We're coming at you live. And I just want to check to make sure we're on the right group. But I thought I'd jump on here and talk about some Halloween fun. Because as you can tell from my background, I am a Halloween fan. I'm a Halloween fanatic. Halloween's fun, it's an enjoyable time. Unfortunately, I think most people are more stressed out about Halloween. But I'm hoping we get some people in here live so we can have some conversations around Halloween. Let's see if I'm on the right group. You guys like my background? I know I could spend a lot of time looking for backgrounds. Bear, what is it? What's happening? I'm working here. Shh. No, 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 no. Shh. No. Morning, Jen. I usually take Bear. That's a neighbor's dog. I usually take Bear out for a walk about this time. So he's upset that I am not taking him out. I said after the live bear, but he just won't listen to reason. So this is my background. I'm excited about. I got another new background. I got a bunch. I know it would have. I should have put the pumpkins. I should have. Everything's got to be backwards. I should have put the pumpkins on that side. But I was looking through. I have like. I got a bunch of Halloween backgrounds, and I was going through all of them. And I'm like, I did. I was doing it for like 10 minutes, and I was like, well, I could sit here for 10 minutes or for an hour and just try to figure out my background, or I could actually start the show. I'm actually working on some Halloween music. So when the show opens, it's like something Halloweeny. I don't even know what Halloween music is. So my question to you guys is, first of all, who's in here watching? It's nice to know who's with me. Jen's the only one that is talking to me so far. My question to you guys is Halloween exciting for you or is it stressful? I know a lot of people with kids are stressed out when it comes to candy and dress up and costumes and late nights and candy. So I'd love to hear what you guys think, if you enjoy Halloween or if it's not something that you're really interested in. I like Halloween. I don't have any problems with Halloween. Me and Halloween, we're cool. We're good friends. So last year, this is my skeleton hand that I'm gonna use all this month. So, oh, I have to hide my original hand, my real hand, my original hand. So I listened to a Stephen King audiobook yesterday. I walk quite a bit here, so it was like 2 hours, and I was done. It was called The Gingerbread Girl. It wasn't very good. It's only 2 hours. So, but I like audiobooks because I run, ride bike, walk. I usually walk for about um, at least 15 minutes just to get to the place where I like to work out. So I could listen to music, but I usually listen to like my face was really itchy there. But I usually listen to an audiobook. I'm going through like a crazy. I go through these stages where I don't listen to any business books, and then I listen to like 10 at a time. I'm like inspired and I want to listen. I watched a 20-minute clip this morning on some entrepreneur teaching a entrepreneur coach. It's a video teaching an entrepreneur how to start a business. So I'm excited about that. I want to tell you what I'm listening to right now. I just downloaded a book called Small Giants. It's about a business that great companies grow their revenues and profits year after year, silently under the radar. Their goal is not to be a big company, but a great company. I don't know if you can have both. I think you can, but I'll let you know how that goes. Did I download it? Yeah, I downloaded it. Okay. And then I'm listening to Deep Survival. It's pretty deep. It's like how the brain works and why we choose to survive in survival situations, why some people die. Like, so he was like, why do sometimes trained, maybe not professionals, but trained people in the wilderness, they will curl up and die in extreme situations where they can't find their way out. And then you have like a 17-year-old that has never really been in those situations, but they find their way out. Like, so it's pretty in depth mentally. Oh, I'm listening to I got a lot on the go. Real food versus fake food. Mm. But when I listen to it, I'm like, most people don't want to hear about this stuff. It's about every industry and how shady they are when it comes to food. And I think most people don't want to know. They just want to eat their food and put their head in the sand. Where's my other ones? Oh, this is a really good one. These are all recommendations for you guys, by the way. This is Alter Ego. This is very good. This guy's from Alberta, and I think he's quite a big name. Todd Herman. How the world's top performers use secret identities to win in sports, business, and life. Mm, that's pretty cool. Like, so he talks about how Beyonce, for example, she has an alter ego. I recently found out that Katy Perry, that's not her name. And when you think about it, you're like, well, I guess Katy Perry kind of sounds like a stage name, but I don't remember what her real name is. But she uses a different name. Obviously, maybe I shouldn't say obviously, but I doubt Beyonce's. No, Beyonce Knowles. No, I don't think that's her real name either. I don't know. But anyways, they use alter egos because when it comes to like being on stage or being in front of people and performing, they're actually envisioning themselves as someone else. It's interesting to know that a lot of like top world class entrepreneurs, for example, or you could look at athletes, even public speakers, they're all introverts. So you can go and not all of them, but most of them are introverts. You'll go and find those people that just want to talk and be in front of your face or in front of the camera. But in many cases, behind the scenes or behind the camera, most are like highly introverted. So they like have issues. So and that's I think that's why they get in trouble when it comes to like behind the scenes cameras. Like what was that girl's name? I know there's this one girl's name. She was always getting in trouble, but the paparazzi would film her, and she always had issues with them filming her. But she had no like she couldn't like she was like a super introvert, and she couldn't like have conversations with. She had a really hard time having conversations with people or acting right like a regular person in front of controversy or attroversy. Is that a word? Jen says, "I'll get to your comment in here in a second here, Jen." But yeah, I just think it's really interesting that these people are Howard Stern. Many of you would know him from does interviews like controversial interviews. I don't even know if he's still around, but he's super introverted. Jen says, "Watch Stephen King's Sleepwalkers last night." Oh yes, that's what I'm talking about. This month is such a great month. I feel like I feel like those of us that like horror movies and scary movies and stuff, it's almost like an excuse now because when you watch them regularly, people are like, "You watch horror movies?" Like, yes, I do. They're so scary, or they give me nightmares. Like that's okay, but I feel like October is like an okay time. Like, oh, it's October, I got an excuse. Dorothy doesn't watch them at all. Suzanne says, "I tried to say hi on my iPad, but I can't on my phone. So hi everyone." Well, hi to you, Suzanne. We're talking about. Well, I'm not talking about anything in particular, but I like how I'm a big fan of Halloween. we carve we carve pumpkins every year, and last year we went to a Halloween party. We went to a haunted house, and then we took our friends. We went with our friends to trick or treating, and that was awesome. That was one of my favorite Halloweens. And then this year, I'm kind of curious to know what everyone else is doing. What are you guys doing that are watching? Are you guys doing anything? Are kids doing anything? I don't know, like in LA, they said that Halloween is canceled, so they're not doing anything, which is pretty disappointing. I thought I just turned all my notifications off, which is pretty disappointing because I wanted to go to Universal Studios this year, and I'm not going to be able to do that. So my Halloween is ruined. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. And of course, it's not all about me. It's about the safety of the world. Okay, no poking fun at that. People get very upset. Jen says, I've been obsessed with horror films since the age of 9. Whoa, that's crazy, Jen. Might want to keep that to yourself. I'm just kidding. You know what's funny is I would read Stephen King books when I was like, I'm pretty sure I was like 14, 16 for sure. But I read, what was the first one? I don't even remember the first book I read, but I read Stephen King books when I was quite young, which I think is a bit odd. Gotta tell you. Not sure I would encourage my kids to watch or read Stephen King until they're a bit older. But I suppose 14, like when I think back now, I'm like, oh, 14 is like a little baby. But I think in that age, you're kind of starting to become adultish. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you are an adult or you act like an adult. I just mean like you start to feel more like you're an adult. So I was like, maybe I should read this book. I remember I was at this baseball camp. I had this really thick book, the Stephen King book, and people are like no one ever read. I always read. I always like people are on the when we were on the bus. Everyone had music and they had phones. I didn't even have a phone, and this was all. This was even when I was old. This was in college and in university, and I would listen to and I would read, and people are like, "What's wrong with that guy? Always reading." Or people would be hanging out and talking, and people would be hanging out and talking and doing whatever you do, and I was sitting by myself in the back corner reading a book. But I couldn't be happier. What did Suzanne say? She says the only part of Halloween I like is seeing the little ones in their costumes, but I don't think we were doing it this year. Jen, what are they doing in Olds? Or does anyone know what they're doing in Alberta? Yeah, I don't know what they're doing either, Suzanne. I really like seeing the kids dressed up too. And that's why when we were in LA here last year for Halloween, it was so much fun. Like everyone was dressed up. We actually went downtown in Manhattan Beach, and it was like a really nice area. And they had all these like, was that Halloween? I'm pretty sure that was Halloween. They have different events. That might have been for Christmas. But anyways, I think it was Halloween. They had all the shops open, and the shops were giving away candy, and everyone was dressed up, and it was just so much fun. And like I said, like I don't think they have much like that in Olds. I don't even know if they have much like that in, like, if I think about Calgary, for example, like where I grew up, they don't like they don't open up downtown shops and you go and walk around downtown. So I don't know. I'm sure like smaller communities would do something like that, but I don't know. I'm not really sure. I just thought it was cool that they were doing that here. And then so for me, Suzanne, we have a quiet street. So like there's like for example, there's renters on one side that don't give away candy. On the other side, the next that house, no one lives in that house, so there's no one there. Then maybe I don't know if it was probably 2 years ago, they just built a condo, not a condo, they just built a duplex, and no one was living there. So our street was pretty quiet, and like you're kids and you go get candy, you go with the lit up streets or like the decorated houses, and we didn't have um, many people with lit up houses on our street, so we didn't get many kids. And there was actually across the street, there were kids going to this house on the corner. So I was like, hey kids, we have candy. And Dorothy's like, not sure you're supposed to be doing that. So, but I wanted to see their costumes and I wanted to see them dressed up, but I didn't really get that opportunity. Let's see what Jen's saying. It's still a go here. Oh, awesome. I'm going to be back there, but I'm going to be self isolated, so I'm not going to be able to do anything. Awesome. Not excited about that. Maybe we could do a pumpkin carving thing on camera, on like a group Zoom. That's not the same, is it? We carved pumpkins here with our neighbor last year in LA, which was awesome. Jen says, I don't think it would be as busy, so I think I'm gonna bust out the full-size chocolate bars for the diehard people who still participate. Awesome! I'm gonna come knock on your door. That's cool. I wonder what, like, like those Halloween candy, like those. What are those? Those like candy corns. Or I wonder how those businesses are getting by. I mean, those are giant companies, but you would imagine. Whew, excuse me. Those are giant companies, so you would think that they have money, because I mean, Halloween sales are going to be down across the North America. Like I said, I don't think they're doing anything here. I don't think they're allowed to do anything. So those like Halloween specific places, like Halloween stores, or like they always have those Halloween businesses that kind of pop up and that have like Halloween costumes. You guys know what I'm talking about? I don't think they're going to be able to get by. So I don't know what they're going to do. Like, how do you survive in a situation like that? Dorothy and I had a really cool Halloween one year. We dressed up, and I'm gonna see if I can find them. I think it's a long shot. I'm just flipping through my screenshots. But this one year, we got our face painted. We were in Olds. We got our face painted. I dressed up like the scarecrow. We had amazing face paint. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find the pictures. We both had like professional face painting done, and we are all excited. We are gonna go to Calgary, and we did. We actually went to Calgary. We are all dressed up, and then it was pretty cold, so we had to wear like clothes under our costume. I was the scarecrow, and Dorothy was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, and we had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But when we went there, it was like downtown Calgary, but around the Stampede area, and and it was like mostly for kids, and that's when I talk about like when we were in a place like in LA, like there's more. I would say there's more adults here. Like if I could compare it to Olds, like I feel like Olds is more of a kids orientated place, which is fine. Like that's what kind of community it is. Like it's a I forget what they call those communities where a lot of like Carstairs or maybe even Didsbury, that there's smaller communities where you raise kids. Like I think in most cases you want to get out of the city and you raise your kids, which is perfectly fine. But for big kids, it's a bit challenging. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of things that goes on, but I feel like most of it is for kids, and I'm like I want to do stuff too. So and I suppose that's different. Like if you like, there's at some point like, oh, all you do is go to the bar. Like great, but I don't want to go to the bar anymore. Like I want to go to like a haunted house, or I want to hang out where people aren't seeing how much they can drink in one sitting. So um, so we got all dressed up. We're all excited. I think we may have stayed in a hotel. Um, and then we got there, and it was like probably 14, maybe a stretch, probably like 16 to 18-year olds, 16 to 20-year-olds maybe, which was the main demographic. And we were like, I was kind of hoping that'd be a bit older because it was in Calgary and there'd be more people, but more older people, but there wasn't. It was like more of a kids thing. So it wasn't like super exciting. Like I wouldn't go back and do it again. So that was our experience. And then I feel like it kind of ended a bit early. Oh, I know what happened. It started raining. It was like pouring. So we're like, all right, let's get out of here. So, but they did a pretty good job. They did a pretty good job. I must say. I'll have to pull those. I'll have to pull those pictures off another time. Dorothy and I had some awesome pictures, like being dressed up, like having our face paint put on, and we had so much fun. What did Darlene say? She says, I love how excited children get. I think that Alberta can be too cold to do many outside events. I'm glad that it wasn't canceled here. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I got this string that's bugging me. That's a good point, Darlene. It is pretty cold. I think like I remember trick or treating as kids, and I remember like Halloween would be freezing. So I think that you're right. That a lot of times it's difficult, and that's what I suppose that's what's nice about being here last year and actually going trick or treating and enjoying it. You're not bundled up in 5 layers, and then you're not like so cold you can't wait to get inside. It's actually nice to be able to walk around and enjoy the evening, and not feel like your toes would never grow back. So that's a good point. But I'm glad they didn't cancel Halloween too, Darlene. That's great. Suzanne says every year I make cupcakes for the kids in my on my block and give out candy to the other kids. But this year I think I'm just gonna give the cupcakes and not the candy. We never get a lot of kids here anymore anyway. You know what's funny? Well, my I grew up in Huntington Hills in Calgary. My aunt still lives there, and there used to be kids on the block too, but maybe much like myself, you grow up kind of. You don't kind of you grow up, and then I think a lot of people move away. So it's a bit sad to me when I think back because our neighborhood was full of kids, and we'd meet at the park and we'd all play after school. We'd play hockey or football or whatever season it was, and it was like the neighborhood was alive. And now, I mean, I don't even know if kids go to parks very much. Like, I mean, of course, because of COVID, there's no one out. Most people aren't going to parks. I think they like in LA, they just started to open up playgrounds now. I'm not sure what it's like in Alberta, but or Ontario, Suzanne, um, but even before COVID, like the parks are mainly empty. Like at least from what I've seen in that park where I grew up, there's never anyone there. It's a rare occurrence. Like I could count on one hand how many times I've seen anyone at that park in the last 2 or 3 years, if you can imagine. Judy, good morning, Judy. Judy says I don't get many, so always give out the big bars. Love seeing the costumes. Awesome, Judy. You and Jen could connect and buy giant bars. We used to love going to those houses where they give you a bit more. I mean, every kid did, right? We get the whole bar instead of the little tiny ones. I think in many cases now, a lot of people buy big candy boxes from Costco, and then they end up eating it themselves because, at least from what I've heard, there's a lot less kids going out trick or treating than before. Jen says I would love to do a haunted house tour. They have many of them in Calgary. That's awesome. I think maybe it's been because last year I don't the years are all the same to me, but last year we were definitely here in LA, so it was at least 2 years ago where when we were there for Halloween. So I don't know exactly what there is to do, but we've tried to look for some in the past and haven't really found too many. But maybe we didn't look hard enough. I don't know. But I think it's fun. Like it's fun to be festive. You know, like you could be a grumpy person, or anytime a holiday comes up, you could be like, oh, Christmas is too stressful, or like you have people that genuinely dislike Christmas, which is fine. Like to each their own. But we like Christmas. We like it reminds us of being a kid, and I feel like you can be. It's more acceptable to be a kid when you're like watching Christmas movies or hanging like singing Christmas songs or like hanging stockings or decorating the tree, whatever you do. And I know different religions do different things, but I just think like if it's Halloween, like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like scary things, and my kids are too bouncy when you get candy. Like I mean, you could do that. Like there's a lot of people like that, which is fine. But I just like I like the festivities of it. Like I like the haunted houses, and I like the costumes, and I like the props. The props are fun. Have some fun. But I think I think a lot of people are really serious in this world, like super serious. Like you could you can tell right away, like when people are around serious people often, like we can tell because people often say like Dorothy and I are like kids, like you guys are like kids, you're always laughing and joking, and and if everyone was like that, then they wouldn't notice how ridiculous we are sometimes. But I like we're just naturally like that. We don't try to be like that. We're even worse off camera. And I think you would get the other, in most cases, you get the other case where people try to be like more crazy on camera to get more views. But we're not exactly like that. So I think that I think that we could use some Halloween fun. We could use some a lot because like a lot of people struggling right now. There's a lot of businesses struggling. So I think a we could use like fun things. We could use Halloween. We could use Christmas when it comes. And I know people are going to be stressed out, but we understand like we put that own stress on ourselves. Like we're as stressed out as we want to be. You know what? I don't want to say I had this like vision or I had this like aha moment. Like I was watching these videos last. They're only like 2 or 3 minute videos of celebrities, and I don't even know how I got on it, but celebrities who were miserable because of their fame. Maybe not because of their fame, but they were just trying to show people like just because you're famous and have lots of money doesn't mean you don't have real emotions like anxiety or depression or frustration or anger. And it was just really interesting to me. So I watched one, it was like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minute video. Then I watched another one, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what? I don't think most of us know what we want in this world. Like, what do you want? And then so a lot of it comes like a lot of stress comes around finances. So then when you have finance, like when you don't have financial stress, then what do you have? Like you have other kind of stress. Like I guarantee it. Like there's people that are more stressed out than ever and have more money than they've ever had. So, and then there's more people that have more money than they've ever had, and their quality of life has never been lower. And I mean, when I say quality of life, I mean like their happiness. They're miserable. They have millions of dollars and they're miserable. Like, so, and it's so interesting to me how we equate happiness or quality of life with finances when they have nothing to do with it. So consider most people stress out about money, as far as I know. Most people stress about money. So consider once you don't have to stress about money. Then what? Then what would you do? Most people would find something else to be stressed about. So just because you have money doesn't mean it's going to erase all the stress in your life. And so I was watching these videos and it was just so eye-opening to me. It was like for us, it was like for me, like me personally, I'm always like push, 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 let's go, next product, next idea, next marketing thing. And I just had a kind of an afternoon of a bit of relax. At least my mind was relaxed, and I was what is the point? Like what is the? And I don't mean that to be condescending of those that want to achieve success like ourselves. Like we have big goals and we're always pushing towards them. So, and I'm like, and I one of the actors, he said doesn't matter how much money you only have one butt that you can fill a seat in. And I don't know why that stood out to me, but it was like because like the more money you have, the more things you need. So we need more cars and we need bigger houses with more rooms and more chairs and more seats. And I'm like, so it doesn't matter. What he's saying is that like what he's saying is that if you have more money, you can still only sit in one seat at a time. So why do you need, you know, different seats with different cars, and you need different, um, you need couches and chairs, and you need bigger houses with different rooms. And he said, doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how many seats you have, doesn't matter how many cars you have one seat to sit in. So choose one and enjoy it. And I just thought that was eye opening for me because it was like, oh, like always got to have more. And it was just like almost like an aha moment. Like when you have enough, you have enough. And most people don't know when enough is. And they're talking about like fame is. Some of them hated it. Like fame is like a demon. They're like fame is. It's never ending. It's addictive. So once you get a little bit of fame, you need more fame. And if you don't have more fame, then you have more pain. Ooh, more fame equals more pain. Put on a t-shirt. I actually stay in contact with, I would call him a teacher, one of my teachers in Sri Lanka, and he teaches Buddhism. And he, every once in a while, he writes me, and he says, there is no, he tells me this all the time, there is no happiness outside. You can only find happiness inside. And actually, the Dalai Lama was on some of these clips that I was watching. And I was going to be talking about Halloween. I don't know how we get on this. But he was talking about this individual from Sri Lanka. He says that there is no external joy. The only thing that external joy creates is pain. So he says you have to find happiness and pleasure and contentment inside. So he says the more things that bring you happiness externally will bring you more pain and more discomfort. And that's the Buddhism religion. Like, you don't need all these things, all these material possessions. And I think we're pretty good with the material possession thing, but that doesn't mean we want to keep achieving more. So I was watching these videos, I was like, man. So like, once you have enough, like, of course we have to decide what enough is, but for me it's like, for me, I can pay my bills. So now it's like, before it's like, are you going to be able to pay your rent and your food bill and your credit card? Like, am I going to be able to pay that off? So that's like the necessities. Like, can you provide yourself with food and shelter? And that was from that's from an entrepreneur standpoint. Like, I never really had a job where someone paid me. I had to go out and hustle and find ways to feed myself. So now, so that was at that was at the lowest level of like, can I survive and feed myself? So that's something that I constantly thought about and worried about, stressed about. So now I'm in a more comfortable state, I would say. So now it's like, you have other stress. Like, now it's not, now the thought isn't, am I going to be able to pay my bills? It's, how much more can I invest in so I can get better profit margins on product? And that's it. Like, so the stress level hasn't changed much. It's like, oh, I can pay my bills, I can feed myself, but then that stress goes somewhere else. Like, how much can I afford to purchase of product that we can sell so we can keep putting a roof over our heads? So the stress isn't any different. It's just been changed to a different area. And I think, but understand, like, we have to decide what's enough. Like, what's enough for us? And once you have enough, maybe you put a little bit aside for retirement, which I don't believe in. You put a little bit aside for retirement, or for when you get older, for example, and you're making enough monthly so you can pay your bills comfortably. And that's enough. So what else is there? But I think we get, like, what, for me it's like that, like the fame and fortune, for example, of the celebrities, of like more fame and more money and more houses and more cars, it doesn't make them any happier. So why are we pursuing that? Like, what's the point? I guess what I'm saying is, like, why are we going after something that doesn't make you happy? And in most cases, we just want to be happy. Like, as human beings, like innately, we want to be happy. We want to be, and what makes us happy is shelter, because we can survive, food, and those make us happy because we can be alive. So, because we can live, like, when we were traveling in tribes, all we really needed was shelter and food to survive, in a community. In most cases, very few people traveled on their own. So once you have what you need, what do you do? Like, none of that is more exciting. Like, you get excited for a short amount of time. So it's like, but I mean, we all want to grow and we want to expand and we want to improve on our situation in life. I think that's what wakes us up in the morning. Like, that's that ambition. It's like, that's why we're driven. That's why we're excited. That's what we get closer to our goals and we achieve goals. So don't think I'm saying we shouldn't be working towards our goals and enjoying the things that we want to achieve. I suppose those achievements really wake us up. But for me, it's like, it's completely different. Like, a lot of people are just chasing money. They're like, oh, I got to chase money. I got to make more money. But that doesn't make you happy. It doesn't even out. If you want to chase, if you, like a lot of people, like a lot of millionaires or billionaires, when they make a bunch of money, all they do is They don't try to make any more money. They try to find ways to give their money away because that makes them happy. So I like that idea too, though. Like the more money I make, the more money I can give away. That's something that inspires me. Or the more gifts I can get. Like um, before we didn't really have any money to send out Christmas cards or thank you cards. Honestly, 100%. Like I didn't have any money. Like I didn't know if I could pay my bills when I was starting out. And then when I made some more money, I started to send thank you cards. And then of course our customer base grows, so we send out thank you cards as often as we can. Sometimes we send Christmas cards because we can afford to, and then sometimes we buy gifts for people. So now we can, like I'm talking about, our customers and clients and those that help us, because I always say we're in partners with our clients. Like we work together. We wouldn't be able to live the life we want to live without having customers. So we try to show our appreciation and thank them, and now we can do that with gifts. So the more we make, the more we can give, and that makes me happy. So I think you have to decide what it is that you're after. And like I'm saying, in most cases, when you think of like what's a full bank account, like, seriously, like what you think a full bank account will make your life better? But what's a full bank account? Because some people, I have a friend that has a couple $1,000,000 in the bank, and he says it's not enough. Like that's not enough money. And I was like, well, what's enough? A great guy, one of my best friends. You talk to him about anything. But he would say that a couple $1,000,000 in the bank, including investments in property, isn't enough. But then you have someone else that has any money in the bank at all or is not in debt, that's enough. So everyone's a little bit different. But we have to understand like what's personal to us. What did Judy say here? Judy says, love the thank you cards, the personal touch. Got your package this morning. Awesome, Judy. You got a nice package too. I know you sent a picture before. Could you post another picture? I love those pictures. It's really nice. Like it's like for us, it makes a difference. Like we want to do that. And that's something that I'm a bit worried about as our customers grow. Like I don't want to lose that personal touch. Like I know Suzanne, like I talk to her quite often. I think she's gone now, but we know Jen. Like we know about your kids a little bit. We know about your family, and Judy and I had a personal conversation as well. Like I don't want to lose that as we grow, and I don't have the answer right now to, because when you have 20 customers, like when I started out, and I always mention how I started out because it's always clear in my mind. And I was actually reading how that's an important part of entrepreneurship, is because when you find different levels of success, whatever success is to you, those successful ones never forget about the challenges it took to get there. So I like to refer back to it because I feel like it was yesterday. Like when I started an email list, like we have thousands of people on our email list, which is fantastic. But when I started out, I had 20 people on my email list because there was 20 people in my fitness class, and I got tired of didn't get tired. I just thought it was a better use of my time if I sent one email out to 20 people instead of 20 different emails. So I made an email list and I sent it out one time to 20 people, and I was like, oh. And no one taught me that. I never had a business coach, never had a mentor coach. Like no one taught me anything. I was like, this would be easier, and I wish I had learned that, or someone told me that years before I started doing that. But so that's how my email list started. So, but now like you have 20 people, you can talk to 20 people. Like most of us talk to 20 people in a day. But once you have 50 customers, 100 customers, 1,000 customers, how are you going to continue to have these conversations with them and learn about their lives? Because that's who we are. Those are the type of people Dorothy and I are. Like we want to know about your personal lives, and we genuinely care. Like sometimes we'll message someone and be like, hey, like someone that's has bought product from us before, so you could call them a customer, and we say, hey, how are things going? And maybe they don't know us very well, or maybe they do, and the first thing they say is, um I'll send like a random message, hey, how are you doing, how are things going? And they'll say, hey, I'm doing good, I'm still good on product, but I'll let you know when I'm ready. And I'm like, that's not why I messaged, but I understand that because that's how the world works. Like in most cases, someone that has a business will only reach out when they want to sell product. And I think that's a problem in this world, because even people that we would call friends or those in our close circles, they usually only reach out when they want something. And like I maybe I'm a bit jaded because I have a radio show, and most people want to get in front of an audience. So I've built this audience for years, and we have a pretty good audience. So and then we're on radio and we're on podcasting, so we can reach a lot of people. So people reach out to me for the only purpose to get on radio. They don't want to see they don't want to know how I'm doing. They don't want to know me personally. They just want to get on radio. And I've tried to like I have a very few connections, but I've done over 500 shows, but probably over 400 interviews. So that's over 400 people I've interviewed over 10 years, almost 10 years. And I've kept in touch with very few. And I've tried to keep in touch with quite a few. But in most cases, it's like, oh, I've been on your show. I'm done. Like, I'm out of here. I don't want to hang out. Just relax, Bear. I'm almost done. And then I'll take you. He's like, it's way past WALK time. So that's why I say, like, a lot of times people reach out. Like, people will reach out to me, or I haven't heard from them in years. And they're like, hey, how you doing? How are things going? And I'm like, so I look on their page and they're like, new book launch. And I'm like, gotcha. That's why you're reaching out. So I do think that's unfortunate. So I understand why when I reach out to someone just to see how they're doing, why they think that I like automatically want to sell them product. Or when I do want to sell them product, it's not that I want to sell them product. I want to know if, like, hey, do you need a recipe for that protein? Do you need to know, do you know how to use that product? Is your, like, make sure your product isn't expired, for example. Like, we want to offer that extra customer support, but I think it's easy for people to think like, oh, they just want to sell more product, because that's how our world works in large part. But that's why I'm reading this book here. I mentioned it before. I don't know if there's any entrepreneurs. I don't know if you guys are running your own businesses, but this one here I'm going to start reading. It's called Small Giants. I'm not going to start reading them. I like audiobooks because I walk quite a bit around here and I'm riding my bike, which I mentioned earlier. But it says companies that choose to be great instead of big. So, like, our goal has never been to be like the biggest company ever. My goal is to be one of the best companies without question. But the biggest, like, I don't want to manage 100 employees or 1,000 employees. Don't want to do it. Never wanted to do it. If that was ever a thought, I would try to consider hiring someone else to do that. But I don't want a company that big. I don't want a company with 100 employees. There's tons of companies out there that break $1 million a year, and they are what do they call them? Solopreneurs. They're the only ones that run their business. So I think it's funny. Like, I've talked about the celebrities and such like, we want more, like, more fans, more followers, get in front of more people. And in most cases, they don't, the more people you don't get in front of, the more people you get in front of don't equal more sales. And that's, in most cases, people want that fame and fortune because of sales. And they think that, I think there's a study not too long ago that I was reading about how there's all these public figures on Instagram, and a lot of them could barely pay their rent. And they make, like, public figures, and they had millions of followers, and they couldn't even pay their rent. So that's something that stands out to me as well. Give me 1 second. I'm going to open the door for Bear. So, anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you guys this morning. I was going to talk about Halloween, but I don't know if we got into much Halloween. But I'm super interested in this book. It's called Small Giants. It's 10 hours. It's a 10-hour book, so I'm looking forward to getting into it. But for us, it's more about quality. Like, we want to have quality products, quality services, and I don't know if it's, I suppose it's possible, but you look at those big companies that I don't necessarily like, one big blue building that starts with W, or an online business that everyone needs to buy from that starts with a big A. Everyone's got to buy. Like, we did a live the other night, and someone's like, "Oh, just buy it online at that place," and I'm like, "Oh," I said, thanks, we appreciate that, but we'd like to support local." So, I don't know if you go to those big box type of stores or even online stores. I don't like. I know for sure in those cases you don't get the customer service. You don't get any personal touch. And for me, I want to hang on to that personal touch as long as possible. Like for one of our products, we just built a password protected page for our like close customers, so they can purchase there, for example. Um, at any rate, I'm gonna let you guys go. I've been on here for quite a while, but thank you for joining me. Thanks for hanging out with me for a while here this morning. It is Friday, as far as I know. Twice this week, I had to Google what day is it. And then yesterday, I thought I had to interview with someone, so I messaged them. I'm like, "Yeah, you ready for the interview?" And they're like, "It's next week," and I was like, "Right, it's next week." So, but I hope everyone has an enjoyable month. We're going to I'm going to continue to do lives. We have a contest in one of our other groups that I'll mention. We have a I'm going to do a live soon in our CTP group as well. And if we can help you guys out with anything, we certainly will. Judy says have a great weekend. We're going to see you in the fitness family group, Judy. So we'll see you over there. And everyone else, have a great day and thanks for hanging out. Have a great weekend as well. Take care. I'm going to go take Bear for a walk so he doesn't lose his mind over there.